There we go.
Hey,
Finally,
there we are.
there we are. Okay.
All
It
right.
should be good.
There are so many jokes I could say right now, Dave, but I will withhold myself. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Not Just Blowing Smoke, coming at you live from Twin Smoke Shop's studio headquarters right here in Londonderry, New Hampshire. Be sure to hit the subscribe button wherever you're watching. If you're streaming live or if you're listening after the fact, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below so that you don't ever miss a thing. Welcome, everybody. I'm Pastor Padron. I'm here with my co-hosts, Pat and Dave and
Yo.
Debris from the 724 Lounge. And today we are doing something a little bit different. We are smoking cigars from the Spring 2023 CRA Pack. This is a pack of 10 cigars, not just any kind of cigars, but 10 very sought-after cigars from companies that are big supporters of the CRA. For those of you who don't know, the CRA stands for Cigar Rights of America. And this sampler pack is used to raise money to support them in their endeavors. And in this pack, which retails for $150, is an Oliva Serie V Milano Diadema, an Ashton VSG Torpedo, the Alec Bradley Double Broadleaf Limited Edition Figurado, the LFD Andalusian Bull, the Diamond Crown Julius Caesar Pyramid, the 60 by Rocky Patel Toro, which was the #2 cigar of the year, my father's S Special Toro, the Fuente Opus X, the Undefeated, the Padron Black #52, and the Tatuaje Limited Robusto Especial. And all of those cigars can be yours for $150. $100 of this pack goes directly to the CRA. These cigars are basically donated by those manufacturers for the pack in order to raise money for the stuff that the CRA does. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Each of us are smoking a different cigar from the pack. I myself am doing the Padron Black #52. Go figure. Pastor Padron had to smoke the Padron.
Naturally.
It just
Why
just
isn't
seemed,
Patuente smoking the
yeah.
Opus there?
That's a good question. Why aren't you smoking the
The
Opus? You decided to save it?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No,
No,
Pat,
come on, put that out.
put
Light
that
up the
out and
Opus.
light up the Opus.
Yep.
He has to.
This
You
is in the
got
pack.
Yeah, it's in the pack. Light up the Opus
Yeah.
because Dave wanted it,
Patuente.
and you said you were smoking it, so you took it from him.
I actually had
Because
first
your
dibs
name's
on
Pat,
it. But
Pat
whatever.
Wempe.
Yeah,
Pat
first
Wempe.
dibs on it. I was here when this whole idea got made.
Had
Shave
first dibs. Well, yeah, but that means that you had first dibs on it.
Yeah.
So that means you should be smoking it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it said featuring the Opus X Undefeated in the intro.
I'm not used to having the
No,
intro.
Wow,
no
greedy
thinking.
little bastard.
Come on, let's see it
Where
happen.
is it?
Let's see it happen, Patio. Come on.
Oh,
Bree, what are you smoking out of the
Of course he
pack
has
there? You're
it.
smoking the
Right.
Diadema.
Yes, I've got
I
that
love you,
Oliva
Pat. That's
Diadema.
awesome.
Yep.
Yes, one of
And Dave over there is smoking,
The Julius Caesar Pyramid.
yes, which
Yes.
is what you decided you would take. I'm smoking what I decided I'd take. Bree loves that cigar.
This is one of my favorite
And
cigars.
Pat just is a betraying little bitch.
Where's that cigar, Patty?
He's smart. He's saving his favorite for later.
I'm really not sure
He's
how
going
I
to age
feel
it
about
for
this.
5 years and then smoke it.
But all right, but that said, that cigar you can get anywhere. So
in the pack.
yeah, there are several cigars that are available.
All the time.
Outside of the pack. That's one. The Ashton VSG Torpedo is another one.
You all
I
right,
think
Sean?
I think that's pretty much it. But there we go.
Well, and the 60th, which Pat is smoking.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, the 60 and the VSG Torpedo. The Andalusian Bull is available outside the pack, but
Yeah, and
It's
the
not always available.
the
And the
Julius
the
Caesar
Julius Caesar
pyramid.
torpedo
Pyramid.
is pyramid. Yes, is not often carried, but it's a regular production cigar by Diamond Crown. So about half the pack you can get, but the other half is more
Not so
exclusive.
much.
So who's going to talk about the beer that we're
Beer.
drinking with this? We're drinking two different beers
Beers.
side by side. Pat,
I can do my limited knowledge in it. It's an EO9, so it's 603 EO9. That's their experimental series. This is the Irish Hello, which is a nitro breakfast stout. They
Punch
do
in the
it.
face.
They do it every year for St. Patrick's Day. I believe they only do it canned. I don't think they keg this one. As I mentioned, it was a nitro. Yeah, nitro stout. I had it last Friday when I was doing like the beer sampling for, a beer that we're making in the works, and I thought it was really good, and it reminded me a lot of Guinness. So I was kind of curious to kind of drink it next to one. I know the head looks
The same.
pretty similar, like the shade of it's similar, so I was kind of interested to see if it stood up to Guinness.
it's got a very interesting flavor to it.
I like that.
Yeah, I actually, they had mentioned to me what's in it, but I think I probably had like every damn tap at 603 at this point. So it's there's beer and alcohol. That's all I know.
Probably Irish cream of some sort.
Pouring
That
instructions.
sounds
Shake
about right.
twice. Pat shaked his 3 times. Open. Then Pat's beer exploded all over.
Yeah, so the instructions are actually
Invert
really
and fork
elegantly
into
written
glass.
because if you shake more than twice, that's not
Yeah.
right. So
Pat wore the bear before this moment.
Brewed with Ghanaian cacao nibs, Madagascar vanilla bean, Flight Coffee Company coffee, and lactose.
oh yeah, lactose. They did say that.
Milky milks.
It is on the can, Pat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did say that.
So it's a very nice stout. You can definitely taste the cocoa and
The stoutiness.
The cocoa is really, really good, and the lactose gives it that kind of creamy aftertaste.
It's almost like you took an Irish cream cold brew and turned it into a beer.
Yep.
I just don't get any Irish cream.
I do that sweet. It's the vanilla and cacao mixture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not quite as like pungent as like straight Irish cream, but if you ever had like frothed Irish cream on like a cold brew
I've only had
coffee-
Bailey's, so that's what I'm going
Okay,
off of.
so yeah, Irish cream.
That's probably totally different.
it almost like cuts that acidity, and you really just get that like straight vanilla foam sweetness. So I get that's the.
Well,
vibe
then
I
I get
get.
that.
Yes.
So why don't we go around and talk a little bit about
Oh,
what we're getting off
why
our
don't you go
cigars.
first, because you don't have much longer on that.
No, I should go last. So why don't you start, Dave?
It's very smooth. It's also creamy. Getting a sweet pepper and like a mix of earth and leather. It's very smooth. It's very complex. It's hard to pick individual stuff out. Burning okay so far. And that being said, pairing with anything like this EO9 or the Guinness, the creaminess goes well with the beers, and tends to bring out for me the coffee notes.
Okay, Pat.
Yeah, so I'm smoking the Rocky 60 Toro. The 6060 is what got number 2 on the aficionado, but to me the Toro smokes so much better. But whatever. So the cigar blend wise has a San Andreas wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and filler. There is a leaf in there from their original farm in Esteli. And they roll the cigar and they age it for an additional 2 years before actually releasing it, so it does have some nice age on it. Palate wise, usually when I talk about the Rocky 60, I say it's kind of like smoking a Cabernet. It has a really nice kind of musty, earthy texture to it just because it's been aged, so it's kind of like a clay type earthiness on the palate. And then I get kind of a bell green pepper, so like a little bit of like that spice sensation, but it's more of a sweetness. Obviously your stereotypical like pepper, wood, spice, and then on the retro I get like kind of a blackberry kind of like dark, rich sweetness. So it's a really, really good cigar. It's typically takes your traditional San Andreas profile and really refines it, gives it a lot more subtleties and nuances. So it's a very enjoyable cigar.
And Brie.
There's just no words for how much I love this
Wow.
cigar. I mean, the Oliva V is a cigar that I have placed in my top favorites. It's just one of those like easy go-to smokes, and this is it's interesting. I get like a lot of that espresso note on the retrohale. The cigar itself is very sweet. It almost has that like sweet cedar finish when you're smoking it. One thing that's just very nice, of course, is the construction. It's definitely not a cigar that I've ever really had to relight, and this is holding up with that. It's one of those cigars that you don't really have to think about. Not getting really any pepper or spice from it. The retrohale was probably I'd say one of the easiest retrohales I've ever experienced, and it really is playing on the notes in the Guinness and the 603 Nitro Irish Hello very well. So that sweetness is very complimentary, but it's not a noxious sweetness. It's a very refined and aged and smooth sweetness that's coming to the forefront. There's nothing harsh at all about this cigar. It just feels like it truly has that age behind it.
The burning is incredible on that thing. It's razor
Look at
sharp
that.
all the way around.
Yeah,
That's great.
the shape is really nice.
I'm smoking, like I said, the Padron Black 52. Not a very common release for Padron. As a matter of fact, one of the few places you see it is actually in the CRA Pack, and it's a 5.5 by 50. They have undisclosed the blend, so there's no way to. They're not saying what it is. That said, it smokes very much like a Padron.
Does Padron taste like a Padron?
Yeah,
That's good.
You know, the pre-light, you know, I got a lot of barnyard, some cocoa, cream, and coffee notes, all things that basically you'd expect from Padron. Lighting it up, those are, it's a much darker, richer, a lot more black pepper kind of spice than your normal Padron does. It looks like a Padron 3000, but it smokes more like a 1926 series. The flavor profile is more that way. Very smooth, very nice burn. The draw is really, really good. The joke with Dave saying I better start first is that typically Padron seem to burn fast, and so that may dictate how long this show
is.
goes. I'll tell you what, this is I'm going to nurse this thing as much as I can, but it's not going to last through two stout beers, so we'll see how it goes. But as somebody who's loved Padron for
Ever?
for a very long time, this is that quintessential Padron kind of flavor, but made a lot darker and a lot earthier.
So my first cigar, because of you, was a Padron. What was your first cigar?
The very first cigar I ever had was a Baccarat.
It's, I suppose, a good place to start, other than Padron. But I was a cigarette smoker, so
I had no
didn't matter.
idea what it was, and I picked it. I was in the shop with somebody who it was taking me out for my first time. I don't think that person knew what they were doing really either, but I liked the cards on the label, and so that's really kind of what made me pick it, and I really liked it. And come to find out, the Baccarat at one time was the best-selling brand worldwide. I don't know that that's still true, but back then it was.
Well, that's awesome.
And then, but once I found Padron,
When was that?
that was around 1999. I found Padron, and that was basically
Wow,
it.
so you've been smoking that for almost a quarter century. That's pretty insane.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a long time, and it was right around then, in 1999, 2000, that I got the nickname
Pastor
Pastor
Padron.
Padron.
So
And that's
it like went downhill from there. The first one was it.
yeah.
You were-
It became my lunch. A Padron 2000 or 3000 or a Londres.
Mhm.
That became like my lunch break cigar, and so I would, go from where I was working, drive to the smoke shop, grab one of those, smoke it in the shop, and go back to work.
Mhm.
Didn't necessarily eat all the time, but I had a cigar for my lunch break.
That's all
That was
that
probably
really
before you
matters.
had kids, right?
Yes, long before I had kids. Yeah, kids were much later.
Yep. And now he smokes more.
Yes.
And not Patrons. Just kidding.
True.
Cut into the Padron budget.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Well, luckily
at
the
least-
thousands are still relatively low.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. And I did want to, share with everybody my love for Padron. I didn't want to keep it to myself and not let people know what I thought about the Padron 2000. Unlike the,
I like the
undefeated,
1000 series.
which is now unsmoked in Pat's pocket. For some later time.
Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah. hmm
I didn't want to give the show what they wanted, right? Like smoking an opus on the show.
Like, of
Yeah,
course,
of
Pat's
course
smoking.
yeah.
the
That needs to
Wednesday.
be. That needs to be a like.
Yeah, because we have that following that's just cursing at home right now. The two people watching. One of them hopefully is.
I mean, like, it's. Have I smoked an opus on the show yet?
I don't know off the top of
I
my
don't
head.
know.
Well, I don't
feel
think
like-
we've done an opus on this.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
we have. We've done Opus before. We did it with Orlando.
Oh yeah,
We've done
yeah, but it
several
wasn't
times.
something that we picked.
I
It was
wasn't
something
here
that was
yet.
given.
Have we ever had an episode where everyone smokes their personal favorite cigar of all time?
Nope.
That almost could have been today.
It almost would have.
was.
Almost.
Thanks,
But,
Pat.
but you picked out, Pat.
Hey, you know what? Rocky 60s, a really good cigar. I wanted to
It
show it
is.
some love.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I ever was like, hey, let's smoke opus on the show next week, I think everyone's down for it. So that's still in the back pocket.
hmm
And I want to make
Whatever-
sure that
whatever you want,
ready to
Pat.
go.
Yeah,
Whatever-
if we smoke
whatever you
opus
wanna
next
say.
show, you're getting an angel hair.
Angel,
Angel
hair.
hair.
Angel hair.
Share?
Angel
hair.
hair.
Angel hair.
We're
Angel
not
share.
giving him an angel share. We're going to give him like a chateau.
I knew a girl called Angel Hair once.
Wow.
Her name was
What?
Angel Hair.
Nickname.
Wow.
Are you
I know
sure
an
you're
angel.
not confusing your anime for real life?
Yeah. I don't watch.
Is there a
anime.
difference, Dan?
Angel.
I don't even know what anime is.
Mid-May angel hair.
Oh.
Dan, I am so
As an anime
bothered
fan, I am
that you
also
know any
lost.
references right now.
Oh,
I
Min-May.
have lots
Poor
of
Bree.
surprises.
We need to
I'm
update
happy
you
we
on
have a body buffer.
the Robotech series.
Oh
Oh,
boy.
That's what started the whole thing.
yep.
Well, one
that's
of the
what
ones.
started. Classic anime.
That, Star Blazers,
Mm-hmm. We used to run home to watch those.
yep.
Oh yeah.
Battle of the Planets, I think, was really that, and Speed Racer. Those are the two that really started the whole thing off.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now that we've all dated ourselves and everything, do you want to talk a little bit about the CRA Pat and what they do?
yeah. So
what
I
does
mean,
CRA do?
just generally what they do is it's the Cigar Rights of America. So I know there's a lot more principal people that are involved in it than I know, but I know Pete Johnson got elected to the board not too long ago. I'd say probably a year ago. Rocky Patel is very involved. I mean, all the companies that are in the pack are very involved, but
Yes.
obviously, like knowing Rocky's background, being a litigator, he's like the front force. So whenever there's a federal issue with premium tobacco, it's not necessarily just cigars, but tobacco. The CRA will go and they'll fund the litigation and to fight, for the rights. And
Party.
The party.
I knew that was going to happen. But they even do like smaller like municipalities, like when you see like state ordinances or towns, like a lot of the times they'll get involved in that as well. So the main purview of their responsibility is just protecting premium cigar rights. So it's really what what they do. I mean, you can go deeper into it, but it's, like the big deeming rule argument that I did a brief on. It's probably a year and a half ago now. Like CRA was one of the plaintiffs in that. So, they just, whenever an issue comes up, they're the frontliners and they spearhead it for us.
And that's they work on a federal level, not a state level.
Primarily federal, but I mean, if there's like a big state ordinance that's going to go by that's going to impact the entire industry, like for instance, let's say, Florida decided to do something big. Like obviously a lot of distribution is done from Florida, so I'd say it's likely that the CRA would get involved in that. But a lot of what they do, at least that's publicly posted about, it's going to be the federal level. Yes.
Right. And it's really, really important to support groups like the CRA. Like I said at the beginning of the show, $100. That $150 goes right to the CRA. All the cigars are donated by those companies for the pack. And, actually becoming a member of the CRA for, an individual is $25 a year.
Yeah, which everyone who smokes cigars should do that. Everyone should. It's only $25. I think you get something for doing it. It might be a stick. I don't know what they do. There's some
I didn't
thing.
know that. I gotta do that.
But yeah, if it's like, and that's one of the things that I wish I knew about earlier, because I didn't even know, like when I bought my CRA pack
We
a
should
few
have
weeks
that at
ago.
the register, honestly.
Yeah, like
if you want
a
to join the
few-
CRA.
A
And then
few
freaking-
weeks ago, I bought a pack and I looked and I had no clue you could sign up online to be a member of the CRA and it's $25. And I'm like, if every single premium tobacco consumer did this, that'd be a lot of money. But I don't know really why they don't really put that out there more. Like, I follow them on Twitter and Instagram, and I never saw that you could actually sign up. So I immediately signed up for it. I'm like, imagine if like everyone did this, right? Like,
Yeah.
like for every 4 people is like 1 pack someone's buying. So
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, we should do that. Make it like a QR code.
Yep.
Someone can just scan it and sign
Well,
up.
in the bag, there is a QR code that will take you to the website so that you can sign up. Maybe that's something that
Yeah,
we can take and just
duplicate
keep and duplicate or whatever.
Yeah.
But, a lot of time, most times on the show, the cigars that we smoke are provided by Twin Smoke Shops or by the company that, is making the cigars. In this particular case, we bought the pack so that we were actually supporting the organization and not just taking it away from somebody and smoking it all.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to fight over. Well, Pat doesn't get any choice about what's left in the pack. He's already taken 3 of the. Yeah.
2.
What else we got left?
No,
That's
you
half.
took 3.
No, I bought this one downstairs.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, that's big of you, Pat.
Did anybody claim the tat?
That's.
we
Well,
thought you were gonna smoke it actually.
I honestly didn't see it. I
It's-
was like, when he
that's
said Pete
because-
Johnson was joining, I was like,
that's
wait,
because
Pat's
it's
in
not
the pack?
in the open pack that we bought because Pat picked that too.
Wow. Okay, I see. Did me dirty. That's
Yeah.
one of my favorite brands. All right, I see.
Wow.
So, I can't be mad. I owe Pat one because I think one of my favorite cigars that I've ever smoked was I think it was an Escasos Lancero that Pat had aged.
Triumph.
Those are
Triumphador. Yeah, it was actually a Triumphador.
Okay.
Yeah, Pat had aged it and
Because the Escasos
brought me a
is
couple,
amazing too.
and it was phenomenal.
Phenomena.
Very good.
Phenomena. Phenomena. Phenomena.
So, what are you guys thinking about the pairings that we're having? I'm kind of going back and forth between the traditional Guinness and the Irish Blessing, or Irish Hello, excuse me, the Irish Hello by 603. And ironically, both of them are doing something similar to the cigar. They pull a lot of that deeper earthiness and pepper spice out and ramp up the creaminess and the cocoa notes of the cigar. which maybe normally would be fine, but because what makes this cigar special is those deeper, rougher, earthy notes and that darker black pepper. It's kind of taken away the thing that you're looking for in the cigar. Both of them are doing that. So I'm enjoying the beer, enjoying the cigar, but not so much the pairing.
I'm kind of it's interesting. I think I expected, based off my first sip of the 603, for that to go better with the cigar because the cigar itself has a lot of those sweeter espresso notes, but I'm finding that the 603 is almost too sweet for the cigar, and it's almost coating like the flavors that make the cigar so unique. But the Guinness tends to have that more straightforward, like bitter, refreshing kind of feel to it. So the Guinness is actually complementing this cigar way better than the other beer is. So I think standalone, the 603 is a really complex, great, and unique beer. And then the Guinness is just more like, generic, straightforward. But with this cigar, the Guinness gives it that cut that it needs and takes away that sweet edge, but plays on like the cedar and the espresso in the cigar. So I'm actually enjoying the Guinness with this cigar more so far.
Going on,
Patrick.
I mean, I think the pairing's good. Like if I really just want to smoke the cigar on its own, I just want to drink anything with it. So whenever, I have a drink, it's because I feel like having the pairing and drinking something. So, like for instance, like I smoked the Padron Black. I probably wouldn't even have anything to drink with it, but obviously it's a podcast. But
Obviously.
so with that being said, like to me, like a stout is kind of like your coffee in the beer realm. So, it goes very well with a cigar. Again, like if I'm smoking, like when I smoked the Marifel a couple weeks ago, I didn't have any, even coffee, I didn't have anything with it. I just smoked that cigar. So the beer to me is not taking away from it, but I think naturally stouts have like a really creamy texture to them, and then the Guinness is more of a dry kind of creaminess, and it has like those very subtle bitter notes to it, a little bit of like a vanilla kind of floral sweetness. And then the Irish Hello kind of ramps up the sweetness. It's more of a forward note. It still has a very creamy texture, but it lingers a lot longer in the palate. And then, what was it? Cacao? What's in there?
Cacao.
In the
In the Irish Hello, you said,
Yeah, cacao.
Yeah, but it
Cacao.
was a kind of
So,
vanilla
to me,
bean.
like
Madagascar.
if you're if you're sitting at a bar and you're just drinking you're just having a drink, right? You're not just doing a cigar. I actually think the Irish Hello is a very unique stout, and I really like it. But I think when you're looking for your like cigar pairing for a stout, the Guinness I think would go better with a cigar because it doesn't really take away. It's kind of like your coffee, like a black coffee. It's not taking away from the cigar. It might be kind of like putting flavors forward, but the Irish Hello is definitely taking center stage on the palate. But honestly, I'm impressed because I think 603 did a pretty damn good job kind of filling like a Guinness space. It's really like I drink Guinness usually if I'm having a beer, and it's like you really can't beat Guinness because it's such a well balanced beer. But the Irish Hello is actually really good. And I remember when I drank it at the brewery, I was impressed by it. I was like, wow, this is actually like, because I wasn't drinking a Guinness next to it.
Probably because it was shaken twice.
But I wasn't drinking a Guinness next to it, and I was like, oh my god, this reminds me so much of a Guinness, and it is pretty similar. It's just a little sweet, which I think most people would probably.
But by then I'd
like
had
the
14
sweetness.
other samples, and I couldn't quite remember.
Well, it's kind of
Was it
funny.
a stout, or
like,
did I have a Guinness? Maybe I did. I don't know.
It was funny, like the first what do they call that? Like when you bring out like numerous glasses, a flight.
Flight. Yeah.
They brought out a flight of 4 beers, and Dan took the time to put the name of each beer on it, told me what it was, and I was like, oh, sweet. And I started, drinking them. And then by 20 minutes goes by, and I don't even know what the hell I'm just throwing like, shit at.
Flight number 2, flight number 3.
I heard about Pat
flight
that
number
night.
4.
Oh my god, yeah, I was like, what? Yeah, I was like at Disney. I like, like when I finished, I was like with Dan. I was like, Dan.
All right, what was a happier moment for you? That, or when you smoke the Marifel.
Marifel. But I was at I was like leaving 603
Awesome.
to come back here to do a cigar tasting, and I'm like,
It was so awesome.
and I'm like, and I'm in the gift shop, and I'm like, I gotta buy a hat. And Dan's like, you don't have to buy anything. I'm like, no, I'm buying a hat. You know, it was good. I bought a hat. I put it on. And yeah, it was good. It was awesome.
Pat got the twins, and it was like he got off a space mountain.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was like, let's go back. Let's go back.
That was the best ride ever.
But with all that, like, this is a complete side subject from what we're talking about.
No.
We're making a beer that's gonna, it's supposed to
yes.
be like the best pairing for a cigar. So, they're using my palate with the cigar and the tobacco portion of things, and then they're using. I had
Pat's palette is in this.
Yeah, and then Dan went all hands on deck for it. Dan was there. Doug, that's the brewmaster, was there, and then Kenny was there that I just met. I haven't met him before, and I believe he's immediately below Doug. I forget what his position is, but he's like in charge of the same purview that Doug is, and that's why we had all these beers coming out, because we're talking about mouthfeel and
Exactly.
where on your palate you want those like sensations, and you don't want it towards the throat. So everything about this beer is being systematically configured to go with the cigar. So I'm kind of curious. I'm not going to disclose what the ideas are for it, but
They're really cool though, people.
yeah, and
It's
then
gonna be awesome.
and they're coming back here Friday to do I'm going to go through cigars with them so they can kind of feel what I was talking about. And I honestly think it's going to be a completely stellar beer. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited for it.
I will say on that kind of note, now that Pat mentions it, and as I'm getting further into the cigar, not that it's typically like socially acceptable to have 2 or 3 different beers in front of you at once, but I am noticing that even though the Guinness was like perfect for the first half of the cigar, as I'm getting down the cigar, I'm getting way more bitterness on the front of the palate, and the 603 is cutting that bitterness perfectly. So I'm at this point now where I'm like, man, I wish I could take these 2 beers and smash them together for the cigar. So that I think it'll be really interesting to see what Pat and the guys come up with for a beer that will perfectly go with
The
every
Irish
single
Hello
part of the
was a
cigar.
focal point with the mouthfeel. Well,
makes
it was
sense.
between this one, like a middle ground between this one and another one. But yeah, it's gonna be good.
Like this is the kind of mouthfeel you're looking for.
Kind of
Kinda.
like it was between this and another one. I want it right in the middle, and ABV is typically what gives you the mouthfeel. So I don't know, like the notes were taken, drinks were slung vigorously.
I don't really remember much, but I remember I was happy.
But I will say the one thing that I can disclose, if so far the track that we're on right now is it's going to be a type of beer that 603 hasn't actually done yet. So it's going to be unique to everyone.
Them, it's gonna be unique to us. Yep, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be excellent.
Did they give you any kind of timetable on how long something like this would take?
I'm not sure. It depends what they go with. I think we have a pretty solid idea. Depending on if I can get Kenny to smoke a cigar, because I think Doug's pretty set on it. But Kenny, that I was working with, is he did research on what beers pair well with cigars, so he was very well prepared for the meeting. And I think he will likely smoke a cigar. So.
Don't worry, we'll get him going.
Yeah, we got to get them on the show.
So they are going to be on soon, and maybe after we finalize what we're doing, we'll get them on to kind of talk about, better than I can, the process we took to kind of get this thing done. I was just kind of like slugging, telling them what I tasted. But
Speaking of guests on the show and jumping all over things and not really talking about what the docket was tonight, I just got confirmed before we got on the show that Jeff Pitchell, who does
Our intro.
has agreed to be on the show and is planning to be on, I believe, on March 21st. So in just a few weeks, we're going to have Jeff Pitchell on the show.
That's Teresa's birthday.
Yeah.
Yep,
Ooh.
she'll be recovering
so
from
not-
open heart
you're-
surgery.
You're not missing that day, Dave.
That's the day after her surgery, Dan.
Yeah, you're not missing that day. You're not missing Jeff Pitchell Day.
Push
Okay.
it tomorrow.
Yeah. That's gonna be freaking amazing. I'm so excited about that. His song has always just been kind of central to us. We had to, get away from it for a while, while rights were worked out and all that stuff. But, Twins, 728, Kurt Kendall's, has the rights to that song, and they've both given permission for the podcast to use it. So,
You hear that, YouTube?
yeah, you hear that? We actually have
Yeah.
permission to use the song. So I'm wicked. That's going to be great.
Yeah,
And
the
Kurt-
artist himself is going to be on the show. YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and Kurt will be on the show
Live
as well.
performance.
So it'll be great. Yeah, well, we want to hear him do that. That's going to be awesome. We're gonna have to get some lights in here or something. Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be very good.
That's 2 weeks away.
Yep. And I guess kind of segueing, what's going on at Twins, our next big event is coming up this Saturday. We have our annual St. Patrick's Day time. Obviously, St. Patrick's Day is the next week, but Peterson Pipe Show. We do a Peterson Pipe Show every March in kind of conjunction with their releasing the St. Patrick's Day pipes for that year. And Kaz Walters is going to be with us. He'll be with us on the show next week. And I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a great time. We're calling it the Peaty Blinders. And it's so it's all kind of themed after the Peaky Blinders TV show. Come in your flat caps, your suits, wear your green,
There's a competition where your
There's
best galley cap.
best scally cap,
Wins a
most
Peterson
green,
pipe.
best dressed will win big prizes. And there's going to be a raffle for a pipe. It's going to be a great time. Tequila Talia is going to be there. There's going to be tastings of Jameson Black Barrel, and there's going to be pairings with Black Irish, Brown Irish, X Whiskey Twist, and some other tobaccos there. Irish Blessing from Cornell and Deal, the Nutty Irishman, and one other one
Nutty
from
Irishman.
two friends. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but you're gonna get your pick with those tobaccos and a Irish coffee featuring Jameson Stout Cask, or a straight pour of Redbreast Cask Strength.
So Redbreast was
That-
so good.
Is amazing. Irish whiskey, people. You're gonna have to put a little bit of water or something in there. It's 116 proof.
Thank you.
It's freaking amazing.
Drop.
And I had talked to Kendra today about a couple special pairings that we're going to be offering for next week. That's going to be starting Saturday too. So if people go up to the lounge after, there's going to be some nice St. Patty's Day themed beverages.
Do we know what those are?
Tentatively, we're gonna do a nice cocktail with the clove, our
Mhm.
724 barrel.
The clover.
I think we kind of got it down, but I don't want to commit to it in case Kendra, because she knows much more than I do about that. So if she changes it, I don't want to say what it is yet,
It's a
but it's going to be
surprise.
very good. And then doing some kind of a like a mint chocolate kind of coffee drink with a cold brew, and then having obviously green ice cubes and other beverages we'll
Pistachio
be serving.
martinis all
So-
around.
Yeah, it's gonna be some nice pairings offered.
Oh,
You gonna be around for that, Bree?
Oh yes, I'm working. I'll be in at 3.
Oh, very good.
sweet.
I'm gonna wear my best PD Blinders outfit. My
Nice.
detective.
And Kaz and myself will be up here afterwards doing the after party.
Oh yeah,
It's gonna be
724
a
lounge.
cool Saturday night.
I'm in the building too, guys.
and Pat.
Oh, Pat's gonna be there too.
You know, the only one of us that dresses like daily how the guy looks in the show. But
Yes, that's true.
Yes, Pat was the original inspiration for our PD Blinders event.
It was funny. Every time, like, I dress like that, I've dressed like that for years, and everyone's always like, "Oh, you watch Peaky Blinders? You look like..." I'm like,
PD Blinders.
"Oh yeah, Peaky."
Beanie Blinders.
See, we
Yeah,
taken
Completely
over.
They're
ruled
like,
the
"Oh,
title.
did you guys watch the show?" Like, you know, I'm like, I've always dressed like this. Like, this is like my thing. I'm Irish. Like,
I'm Irish.
you know, everyone thinks I'm like dressed up. Now, I see people that like literally dress up like the show. Like, they have like the fake pocket watch, like the elbow tassels. And...
I think that would be kind of cool if we encourage people to, dress up like the time, almost like speakeasy.
Oh yeah,
style
oh yeah. I mean,
Prohibition era.
like
Yeah.
I do have a pocket. You know, I have like the stuff at home to do it. But like, if you wear that in public now, people automatically think you're simping for the show.
Yeah, it's true.
It completely like killed the culture
Pat,
of me
if you
dressing
do it,
like
I'll
that.
do it. Saturday.
Detrimental.
Let's do it. Are we in?
I mean, I'll wear it.
Let's
Yeah,
do it.
for that day, I'll wear
Alright.
it for sure.
You
I'll
should.
bring
I mean,
my.
that's what it's all for.
I'll put a razor blade on my cap and have a Glock on me.
New Hampshire.
Oh my gosh. Let's see.
So what was I gonna say? So
The PD
The countdown?
Blinders people. This Saturday, 12:4 p.m. at Twins Londonderry. See Pat look like a Peaky Blinder.
is this ASMR right now?
Wait, do you have the rights to this song?
It's all right.
Did
get
I
it
cancel
shut
it?
off.
I can't really make any money. Thanks, man.
So I'm gonna pull it back to CRA Pack a little bit here.
Thank you.
So, did we talk about what each cigar is in the pack, or did we just kind of
I
generalize it?
mentioned them quickly at
Yeah,
the
so
beginning.
I'm just gonna shed a little bit of light on what's actually in the pack. Cause honestly, like at Twins, we're selling it for 150. 100 of that goes towards a donation towards CRA. It's honestly like if you're a cigar guy or girl, this is a really
Person.
really solid pack. And you know, every company that is well, not every company, but the main companies that support CRA, like they usually pony up for these. And this year, out of the past packs I've seen, is the pack to really get. So, you know, you have the Ashton VSG, which is one of the premium lines. Not just anyone can even sell VSG. You have to have certain amount of facings for Ashton to have the, for the account. So it's other than the ESG, it's a top cigar. And then the Torpedo is the top selling size next to the Robusto. The Alec Bradley double broadleaf is probably going to be extinct after this year. I'm just kidding. But it's the Figurado's limited size. I don't recall when that was released, but I think it was an event type thing. It wasn't like they don't sell boxes retail of the Perfecto.
No.
The
Not that
Julius
I'm aware of.
Caesar Torpedo is something you
Pyramid.
can get. Pyramid,
Yep.
which is a torpedo.
Which is a pyramid.
I believe that's a Coraline Julius Caesar, but
It
again,
is, but-
J.C. Newman, Julius Caesar Maximus, Black Diamond, that's their top SKUs. It's really good tobacco. And then the Illusion Bull, that's most LFD fans know what that is. That's LFD's opus, if I had to use something to kind
Yep.
of set that cult following. The Rocky Patel 60, Rocky doesn't necessarily make anything that's hard to get. You know, the age limited rare is something, but it's readily accessible if you're a PCA account. So this is like, the 60 is his top selling cigar. Again, because of the Cigar Aficionado rating, and just honestly, if you haven't had a 60 yet, I would suggest trying it. It is an elite cigar. It is a phenomenal smoke. The Olivia Series V Milanio Perfecto, I don't believe this is you can get this outside of the pack.
This is the Diadema. Yeah, so I don't know that you can get this
I
outside
think
the pack.
I might be wrong on this, but I recall that they had a sampler pack that may have had this one in it. But again, sampler packs typically flex the limited sizes.
Right.
And then the Opus is the undefeated. I researched this cigar and I didn't find it anywhere, so I believe it's exclusive to this pack. If I had to give it's kind of like a double Toro. I don't have the exact blend, like the Vitola, but it looks like a 54 by a 6 3/4. So it's a unique size core line opus. Then you have the My Father Special Edition. The only way that I know you can get that is
At
at a
an
My
event,
Father
yeah.
event, and it's a phenomenal smoke. It reminds me of the Centaurian,
Mm-hmm.
but it takes it a little bit of a step up. And then the Padron Black, which I think the only other way you can get a Padron Black, I think sometimes there's little capsule releases to retailers,
Mm-hmm.
but the only place you can readily get it is at Padron's retail shop in Miami. Other than that, and even if you go online, you're not going to find them in stock. So I think they only come in boxes of 8 or 10. 10.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the Failing Reserve boxes, and they're very reasonably priced. But if you find them online, it's
Not reasonably priced.
yeah. And I had smoked the Padron Black in the pack I bought last week, and that is a phenomenal cigar. It takes it has like the Padron 1000 series feel to it, but then it has like Dan mentioned the 1926 flavor profile. So it's a really interesting cigar from Padron. And then the Tatuaje is a tweaked blend of the pork chop and more of a double robusto vitola. So, and again, if you're a Tatuaje guy, if I say pork chop or anything in the meat series,
Should
that's
be
gonna get your
salivating.
ears to perk up. So, honestly, really solid pack. It goes to a really good cause if you care about premium tobacco. It's definitely worth picking up, and then I would honestly suggest taking it a step further and scanning that QR code, doing the 25 a year, and just be involved and just support the CRA and what they're doing, because I wish I knew more about, like the day-to-day actions that they're taking, but, every time there's any issue in the industry that requires litigation or consultation, like the CRA is always a name that pops up that's involved in it. So they're very active. It's just a really, really solid association to support. So
Yep. And stuff like this is going on all the time. I mean, even here in New
New
Hampshire,
Hampshire, yeah.
Half Wheel reported that there had been a bill proposed by somebody in the state legislature to put a 65% tax on premium cigars.
From 0
Yeah,
to 65.
from
Let's just
0 to
start at
65.
65.
Yeah.
So basically, let's just put tobacco out of business. 'cause-
My understanding is that that's already been defeated. That's not going anywhere.
I think Kurt said it's likely to be defeated. I don't think it's been officially struck down, but it was a lot
I
of
don't think
confidence.
I don't think it's going to go anywhere. but-
Every couple years they propose the same, like an edited version of the same thing, to my knowledge.
But our local group here in New Hampshire, the Cigar Association of New Hampshire, which we playfully call CAN, cans a lot of these things for us. And
Thank goodness.
I mean, it's big. I mean, New Hampshire's a big place for cigars, nationally speaking, because we're one of a very few states and places where there is no cigar tax.
Yep, it's
And-
us and Pennsylvania and Florida and the District of Columbia.
Yep. Washington D.C. Go figure.
Yep.
Where all of these
Politicians are who
Yeah.
love to
And
smoke their
if I
cigars.
read correctly, I believe that there's a section of the Capitol building you're allowed to smoke indoors now.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, that is true.
Go figure. Where
Every-
you
every-
can't smoke anywhere else, though.
All
'cause-
of,
You know what's interesting though? So I'm taking a environmental studies class in law school, so it's mainly like the federal agencies that regulate different environmental issues, like the Clean Air Act, those like the Clean Water Act. So I took the class by force almost because of the schedule, and it's actually really interesting because these so the FDA is a federal agency. So learning about how these environmental agencies go about their business, it's the same thing as the FDA would. And
the EPA.
so the EPA is the FDA is what I'm talking about with cigars, but the EPA is a governing body that oversees the environmental. So it's funny that a lot of these cases for the environmental rights and regulations actually cite some FDA cases, and you go through it and they're mentioning like tobacco, and they're mainly targeting cigarettes, and they're mentioning cigarettes, but if you look into the cases further, it's all tobacco, but their main focus is cigarettes. but then coincidentally that scopes in premium tobacco. And, it's funny because, like, no one in my school knows I'm a big cigar guy. So, like, we'll go through these cases and, like, someone will say, like, a layman's thing with tobacco, and then I always speak up and I say, oh, that's not right. And, there's, like, a warning label thing in California for some kind of chemical. What was it? It's
This chemical is known in the state of
I should
California.
remember it.
to produce
Yeah,
birth
it's
defects.
what is
California is known to produce birth defects.
I'm not going to lay on the topic, but it's like, it's in food. What is it called? Like, it's some
Sugar.
kind of cell that they manipulate that's in food. I can't think
Human
of what
growth
it is now.
hormones?
No, it's something regular in food. I can't think. It's like a nutrition thing.
Okay.
What was
Corn syrup.
It might be cellulose. I'm not
Aspartame?
sure, but whatever. So
Cellulose.
there was a regulation on cellulose and something of that nature, and I guess like the population didn't support, like they didn't vote in this bill to have these required warning labels on boxes of food that have this mutation, I'll call it, in it, but it's healthy. Like, it's like a lot of the supplements I take when I work out have this thing in it. It's actually projected to be beneficial. And then the conversation was
Love
why didn't it pass when, like, California's frontlining having everything else on warning labels? And if you read like the actual ordinance of what this thing is, it's like people either ignore it, they don't care about it, or they're educated enough into what they're taking. Like me, for instance, like I take supplements. I know this. I wish I remember the exact chemical, but I know this is in what I'm taking, and I'm educated to know it's good for me. So I actually use
But I
premium.
can't remember what it is.
Yeah, I can. This was like I wrote so many memos in the past few weeks. This is like long out of my mind. But it was interesting because I ended up asserting like the premium cigar industry with the warning labels on the boxes, and I had said like, like the FDA, that this got shot down because it's either they're being ignored. There's a burden of printing these labels. And then it was interesting because like a lot of those people in the class didn't understand that printing these warning labels actually costs money, and it's not like a cheap feat. Like, it's actually a costly endeavor to have these warning labels. There's like typically like more than 5, and they have to randomly rotate which warning labels on which box. They're different. And it was just interesting because, like, this is an environmental class I'm taking, but it just completely mingles in with what we face every day.
It's
'Cause
not environmentally impactful to have those warning labels.
But it's even like when you're looking at like,
it's not. So let's just say that.
well, environmental is everything. Like, if you put like a toxin in food, that's considered environmental endangerment. It's the general welfare, so it pertains to.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Like, number one, you got dry leaves. Okay, that's environmentally sound and biodegradable. You got wood boxes. That's environmentally sound and biodegradable. You have cellophane, which is a wood product, and environmentally sound and biodegradable, and in short times.
But this is the one thing I've learned. And I don't know how off track we got, Dan, so you can stop me if you want. But I don't know how.
Better than cereal. Come on.
So from my experience learning about the EPA in this environmental class, there is so much discretion with these federal agencies. It is unbelievable. So I took constitutional law last semester, and one of the big topics you learn about is an unconstitutional delegation of legislative authority, and that pertains to these federal agencies, because you have a federal agency, the executive has the power to elect principals, judges, and other officers, diplomats, and then the legislation can elect subordinate principal officers, and the legislation has to write the purview of these organizations, because since it is an executive branch group, they can't make law. So if they're going to do anything, they have to be delegated law from the legislative, very detailed, like, so they aren't, separation of powers.
Right.
So the Supreme Court hasn't held an unconstitutional delegation of power for, I would say, since like the 50s. And you read these cases with the EPA, and the court just says like there's some dissenting opinions where Justice Brown is like, hey guys, what happened with the unconstitutional delegation of power? Like the discretion is unreal. Like the EPA is making a regulation for clean water that's not even within like their bounds from the legislative branch. And it's like there is absolutely like it's just unparalleled discretion. It's insane. And then you look at so we're not doing FDA work, but I can only imagine what the FDA is doing.
Well, isn't it like the difference between a law and a policy? You know,
Well,
what I mean?
it's
Like, this is
regulation.
this is our policy, but this is it's not a law. So
Well,
this is our
the
policy,
legislative
which
branch
is
makes
almost-
law,
which
and
affects
then
us like a law.
well,
You know?
yeah, it's all regulation.
all-
So
all
I
crap.
just like we weren't. I mean, we're talking about CRA, so it is relevant in a way, but it's like there has been no unconstitutional delegation of power in years, and then all these federal agencies are just basically unbridled power.
Yeah.
It's even to the point where like the EPA, when it comes to greenhouse gases, this is before the Obama administration. Like they had all these studies that greenhouse gases were acting negatively to the climate, and then the EPA actually didn't regulate it. They didn't want to regulate it, and they claimed that they didn't have the authority to, even though it's clearly in their statute that they can regulate it. And then the Supreme Court was like, well, we can't tell them to regulate it, and they don't have to disclose why they can't regulate it. So it's like there's nothing that's curating these agencies to act a certain way. So
Right.
it's side topic, but that's the thing with the FDA. So buy a pack, right?
Well, let's close up by giving our final thoughts on the cigar we're smoking. The Padron Black has been burning flawlessly. Like a Padron, you don't expect these incredible mind-bending changes as the cigar goes. What you get is a very, very unique profile that stays constant and consistent all the way through the cigar, from the very first puff to the very last draw. And that's what I'm getting with this. It has been a great cigar. If you like that Padron flavor and you want a variant of that that's deeper, richer, almost like a rougher kind of earthy quality to it, this is it. And that's the kind of cigar I like. This is really good. I would totally recommend this cigar.
Yeah.
I would totally smoke it again.
Julius Caesar, I've had to correct it a few times, but not too much. And this is it's super creamy. It's got this very subtle, sweet spice to it. Nice earth and leather tones to it. I've been sticking for this cigar. I've been sticking with the 603. It's just been an absolute delight to smoke with it because all that stuff is being amplified by that beer. The Guinness for me is kind of taking it away. But if you're looking for maybe a medium plus cigar that's got super creamy and this very sweet mild spice to it, it's unbelievable.
This is interesting, an interesting turn of events, I should say. I know I said before that the Guinness was going better with this cigar, and the beginning of the cigar was very easy, very sweet, very like espresso and chocolate forward. I got a certain bitterness on the palate through the mid of the cigar, and I was finding that I almost needed that 603, like the sweetness from this stout, to cut down that bitterness and that acidity, and it really made the pairing enjoyable. Now as I'm getting towards the end, I still haven't relit the cigar once. I lit it once and that's it. And now that I'm getting towards the end, that bitterness has gone away and it's becoming enjoyable. I'm almost getting like a hickory sweetness from it.
wow.
But I think now I'm still going to recommend the 603 over the Guinness. The Guinness went great for the first quarter of the cigar, but the mid, I would say that like sweet kind of well-rounded stout was almost necessary to cut the bitterness. And as it's getting towards the end, it's actually working really well with those flavors. And as I look around too, it looks like everyone's almost on the same page. Like people have taken only a few sips out of the Guinness and the 603 is almost gone.
Yeah, for me, nothing changed. I didn't think either went really well with the cigar, but the complexity of the 603 Irish Hello is just really, really enjoyable. And so every once in a while, and it was, it was looking at, I did the same thing a little while ago, going, wow, I'm really drinking that 603.
And that 603 is only available around this time.
Only around this time.
That's
and
sad
only
because
at
it should be.
603.
I feel like they should be making it year round because it's like I like it better than Guinness. I'll say it.
Yep.
Sorry, Guinness.
Pat?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll echo what I said for the cigar. I talked enough this episode. But yeah, when it comes to the beer, like, again, like when I was at the brewery and I had the Irish Hello, I was like, wow, this is actually really good. And I think a lot of stouts I've had, not that I'm like an aficionado in beer, but, stouts are deep, dark, and they, on the palate, it doesn't really rest
Dark and
well for
wet.
me. Like, it doesn't have like that kind of palate neutral kind of mouthfeel to it. Like, it has a little bit of bitterness in the back of the throat. Or there's some kind of hops or something that they put in. I don't know what they do to it, but the Irish Hello is the only beer that I've had stout that has a little bit more pronounced flavor than a Guinness, but has that very palate neutral feeling. So when you're smoking a cigar, it's not acting advantageously to the profile of the cigar. And that's why I think Guinness is such a staple, because Guinness, since it's so well balanced,
It's
it has
refreshing.
that palate neutrality. And, the only difference I can say is that Guinness is more of a dry kind of palate finish, where the Irish Hello has, I don't want to call it like a wetter kind of finish, but it has more of those savory components that linger on the
I feel
exterior.
like the cream lingers.
Creamy, yes.
The cream
Well, yeah,
lingers.
it's like that savoriness
Probably 'cause of the
lingers
lactose
on
or
your
something, but-
exterior palate, so it's not going to the back of the throat. So if you're doing a retrohale, it's not going to change that profile, but it's very refreshing.
Yes.
So I would say like the 603 did a really excellent job with this beer.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, that's it for our show tonight. Hope that you enjoyed it. Go out, get yourself one of these CRA packs, support the CRA.
Yes.
If you don't get a pack,
You're a
go
jerk.
online and join the CRA. It's only $25. It's really important that all of us who enjoy cigars, tobacco, pipes, join this group and support them. And whenever you see one of these, if you can do it, get it. Next week we'll have Kaz Walters on the show with us.
baby.
We'll be debriefing the PD Blinders event. That's going to be an awesome time too. He's a great friend of Twins, great friend of the podcast. Looking forward to that. We'll see you next Tuesday, 8 o'clock right here.